I think Doc might be on mute or I don't hear him. Luis, do you hear him?
No, I do not hear him.
Well, hello, everyone, as we figure out why
He
we can't
muted
hear Doc.
himself. That's what it says on the interview mode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. I see a bunch of people hanging out with us in the chat. I see David and Dina and another David. All the Davids are hanging out today. We're back in our own space today. It's kind of a surreal feeling not to have the whole gang here. Rich says that Doc's never on mute. It's very true. Doc is never on mute. He's talking away. I'm sure he's saying very cool, interesting things. How's everyone doing this Tuesday? We're trying something new today for those watching right now in the chat. Doc will be back in a minute. We're having Luis completely remote produce for us so that we have easier, faster access to the files. So we'll go through our entire workflow. Maybe we'll do an episode on remote production. Yeah. Rich says Katie's doing the solo podcast today. Sure am. I can talk about content repurposing forever. So I'm happy to do it by myself, but more fun with Doc here. Always more fun with Doc here. Hey, DJ Right on Beat. How's it going? All right. Well, hey, I'm going to answer some questions.
Now
I'll
you
wait
should
for
be
Doc.
able to hear me, right?
Oh, there we go. We can hear you.
I didn't change anything, and it's funny because it was working, and then just Chrome decided to be Chrome. All right, cool.
Yeah. Hey, it's good. It's good practice for everyone watching. I was going to say I'm going to do a short after we're off here to show how much of a camera fail I had. I plugged everything in. I was like, great, I'm going to sit down. Look, no camera, no sound coming out of the Rodecaster, both on. I was like, hey, what? And I'm plugged in. I didn't realize that my cable was plugged into a completely different hub. so all the fun things that can happen.
I had you set up to just need one cable.
I know. Well, yeah, but Ken unplugged it and put it into something else. So.
There goes Ken.
No, I can't blame Ken. I figured it out pretty quickly. I'm proud of myself. So
come in, plug one cable in your square, and it got Kenned.
Yeah, exactly.
That is awesome. But anyway, people, what's up? We are back in real life. And no, Rob, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. Chrome did it. So just zip your face.
Doc takes he's not apologizing for Chrome's fault.
Well, I mean, especially because we did our pre-check and everything was golden. So
we did.
I think this does lead our people who are sitting in the audience. One thing that I mentioned in Leap into Podcasting, and I don't know if people remember this, but you should practice what to do in case of contingencies.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the first ones is just leaving, restart the program and come back, or leave. Actually, normally I'll restart the whole computer and come back, but I know this Mac Studio is gravy. Because my Mac Mini has been relegated to living in a box. So I basically rebuilt the studio the last 2 days and, got everything just running on the Mac Studio. So yeah, one of the things that you should definitely practice, don't just worry about when it all goes right. Know what to do when it all goes wrong. And so even Katie this morning had to go down her list of
my checklist. Yep. Follow the cables. Yep.
Do this. So you should almost make yourself, if you know your system and its idiosyncrasies, like you share office with Ken, make yourself a checklist. Or once it's all working like you have it, take a picture of every knob, take a picture of every cable, take a picture of everything, and just have that somewhere that you can trace it when it goes wrong. Because that's what we do in the Army, right? When the tank track starts slipping, we go straight down the list. You know what to do, because if you don't get it moving fast enough, you die. So simple.
Yeah. See, this is not life and death, but some situations are. So it's good to know what to do.
Okay, so there we go. Gang, man, it feels good to be back in my spot, but it also feels sucks because then I don't get to have bakehouse sandwich in the morning, and then I don't get to hang out with Katie and Ken, Luis and Aiden and Glenn and Caleb and Austin, like a whole squad. So yeah, and I do kind of like the weather to start with the 8 or a 9. right now.
Yeah, we don't have that. That does not exist here right now. In fact, it's going down. It's going it's going down every day.
Rapidly. All right, let's get this show popping. What are we talking about today, Kates?
We are talking about content repurposing, podcast content repurposing. So for everyone who has been for all of our friends who have been playing along at home as we've been on tour and all over the place, we've been really preaching a lot about the benefit of starting with a video workflow or starting with a live video workflow. And so today we're going to talk through why why that matters as far as your content marketing plan goes, and where can you put all those pieces of content, and how many pieces of content, and what are those content pieces. So we're going to cover all that today.
Nice. I'm totally down for this. This should be really awesome. Quick housekeeping for the folks that are chilling in the studio audience. First of all, thank you for being here. Don't forget, it's every single Tuesday at exactly this time, 12, right when the Amesbury horn goes.
It's a good reminder. It's like, you're on.
And we know it's time to go, right? It's kind of great. As I love hearing that sound again, it just makes me feel like I'm still there. Okay. The other thing that I want to remind you guys is, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you go over to the iTunes and leave a review, and or
Please.
share the program with someone else who you think is starting a podcast or thinking about starting a podcast and don't know where to go. Yeah, send them our way. Let's get them started with the whole Ecamm thing. One, you're allowing them to join the Ecamm fam like yourself. Two, if you're an affiliate, you'll get 30% of whatever they pay for Ecamm for the first year. Or
if you're not
you know,
affiliate, you can sign up
if you're not
really
affiliate,
easily.
sign up, right? Because everybody that you bring into the podcasting world through Ecamm can be highly profitable. So then when Doc says, hey, you need to buy the new SM7, SM8B, you don't go, oh my God, Doc, it's so expensive. I can't afford that. Like, yeah. So no, there's not an SM8B coming out. I was just using
No, there should be though. That'd be awesome.
in purple.
Yeah.
LD.
Yeah, exactly. It could be like the SM7B, but with fun colors. We all love fun colors.
SM7P. I'm in. I want it.
Yeah.
SM7L for lavender. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so one, you'll be helping your friend out, make their podcasting journey a heck of a lot easier. B, you also can, make a little cake for yourself, and you welcome somebody else to the Ecamm family you both know and love. So just keep those things in the back of your head. If you're unfamiliar with the affiliate program, just go to affiliates with an s.ecamm.com and then show up Friday right after the demo, and then I'll tell you what it is, because that's what we do. It's coming. I'm pretty sure it's coming up this Friday.
It is this Friday. Yep.
Katie's like, get back, do this again. Okay.
No more vacation for you.
All right. So your questions. Mr. Moderator's not here today. So of course, if you have questions for us during this particular podcast, make sure you drop in the Q colon, put it there so it's easy for us to find. And then, we're going to answer those at the end, right after. Unless I see something in the corner of my eye while we're talking, for the most part, we'll answer them at the end. And again, if you can't always be here on a Tuesday, you can send your questions to flow@ecamm.com.
You sure can.
Ecamm.com. All right, let's get it twisted. See.
Let's check it out.
Make sure everything's good. Get a little stretch. I'm going to switch from bubbly drinks to water before I make noises on the mic. All right, Mr. L, we're going to give you a mark for the Rodecaster Pro. All right. And then we will start the countdown in 5, 4, 3. Aloha and welcome to the flow. I am Doc Rock, your community manager for Ecamm Live, with my co-host,
Katie Fawkes.
Hey, Katie Fawkes.
Hey, Doc Rock.
This is kind of cool. We're in our spot. I'm not over there hogging up all of your space at the big desk.
It feels so empty and lonely over here. I'm like, oh no, there's no one here anymore.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I am super sorry.
All good.
I am kind of feeling that I might have to move the jury down here to the office instead of in the kitchen, because I just want to across the room and press the button for a cup of coffee. But we are back in action doing the flow. And today we would like to introduce you to something new. First of all, we're going to go through our regularly scheduled program and answer our questions at the end. And we are recording this live on our YouTube channel that we do every single Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. But today we did something really special. And we have Mr. Luis Vega, aka Mr. Camera Junkie, remote producing. So we are an official podcast because we have a producer.
It's so much fun having a podcast producer. We'll have to share some fun behind the scenes clips and talk through what that process and that experience is like, because I think a lot of people have questions about that. So if you are one of those people that have questions about it, let us know what your questions are, and maybe we'll do an entire episode where we cover remote production and how to produce a podcast or a live show using Ecamm.
That is very, very insightful. And I think it would be even good to talk about how I came up with the reflow.
Yeah, the reflow. And it's good to call out that sometimes you need a reflow when you had an original flow. So we had an original plan and then we reflowed it.
I think a lot of people get stuck in the fact that these plans are liquid, right? They get stuck in the thinking that the plan is the plan, but sometimes you have to make the plan liquid so you can find out what works best for all parties involved. And the number one reason why we went to remote producer is because Luis has always been our editor. And it's a little bit easier to edit when you already know what to expect from expecting. Nice movie.
Well, yeah. And you have all the files up front. So it means that Luis is not waiting for Doc and I to send and upload and pass along files later.
And then, like, while we're doing this and he's producing, he can make little notes here and there. And, he even has the ability to chime in from the back if we needed to hear the disembodied voice of El Vega. I actually made a scene in the files. There's a scene called producer. So he could load his camera up at any given moment and cut in. You see this a lot in Howard Stern and some of the other, like radio shows that are televised. Every once in a while, you'll see the producer cut in and say, so forth, so on, and et cetera, right? So it has happened. My favorite of this genre would be Wally on Seth Meyers when Wally comes in, but Wally's just a cute guy. But now they've made Wally a big figure of the show. So Wally actually has part of the jokes, and you'll often see the producers of various shows chime in, and you'll see them with their headsets on and saying things. So I kind of think this is a great way to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I think it's going to be really fun. So get ready for us to force Luis onto screen more often.
We're going to call Luis at the exact same time Aiden says something, and then he's going to be like, I can't come.
Well, actually, I think to sidestep into our topic for today, one of the main reasons why we needed to reflow was that we have this very specific plan and vision for the flow in which we are doing more than just podcasting. We're creating all kinds of pieces of content at the same time. So having a producer is that first step in making sure that the final file that we're going to cut up and use in a bunch of different ways gets to the first person faster so that we're more efficient and we're creating a better workflow. So, so I think it's a good kind of intro into today's topic all about content repurposing. Is if that is your mission and what you're doing with your live show or with your podcast, then you need to be constantly asking yourself, are you doing it as effectively and efficiently as you can be? And if not, what are those changes that you can do to make it easier on yourself or on your team so that it does become second nature and moves a lot faster? It wasn't moving crazy slow for us, but it was creating delays that were unnecessary. And since we're podcasting every single week, we do need to be able to save as much time as we can because we are doing other things during the week as well. Not that we don't just live and breathe podcasting, but we're doing other things during the week as well. So
I like that. I like the idea of living and breathing podcasting because it is a thing. I've definitely been listening to a lot. It's a funny thing when you start your own podcast, you may have already been listening to podcasts, but one of the things you will almost automatically do is start listening to more podcasts. Level things up. And the Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean.
Smartless.
What the heck is Sean's last name?
Sean. Man, now all I can think of is Sean Cannell, and that's not who it is.
I swear it begins. Haynes. There you go. I was going to say, I swear
Haynes,
it
that's
begins
it.
with H.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so good. That is so, so good. The Ricky Gervais episode just recently came out, and it was really, really good. So, yes,
Yeah.
that's a good podcast to listen to if you want to hear just what it's like to do a casual podcast that is very good. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I almost have too many favorites at this point. I can't. I just always, I'm just walking around with headphones in my ears 24
you like
7.
your two favorite kids.
Yeah, exactly. You can't pick favorite kids. Can't pick favorite podcasts. Not possible.
All right, let's talk about some repurposing right now. What exactly is podcast repurposing? Yeah, well, we'll see. What does podcast repurposing mean to you, Katie, as a marketing director?
Oh my goodness. That's a great question. I think as we're thinking specifically about it, it's an intentional workflow. And so the thought isn't just that we're podcasting and putting out audio only content on the major podcast platforms, but we're really creating an entire community around multiple pieces of content that we're putting in the places where we know those audiences live. So in the case of a podcast repurposing, we obviously know we need the audio out there. We are obviously a video podcast, so we're also building a YouTube audience of YouTube live studio audience members, and we're building a YouTube audience of replay viewers who are stumbling across our videos or our replay videos and getting to know us a lot better. But then we're sprinkling, as Stephanie Liu always puts it, our digital confetti, our content out across all the social platforms, in various ways and across our blog. So we're really putting our podcast in all of these different places in the form that is most impactful for the audience that's there. So if people want to read, they can get the content by reading. If people want to listen, they can get it by listening. If they want to watch, they can get it by watching. If they want it short, they can get little clips of it and just be able to get that digestible content. We're being really intentional about that from the start.
Yeah, for me, I want to call it the Starbucks strategy. This is the Schultz strategy.
Mm.
The thing that made Starbucks great. Now, I have a distinct memory of walking into my first ever Starbucks when they were only basically in Washington and San Francisco. Like they had it, spread all over. And there was one of the original 10 was built next to the Moscone Center in San Francisco. And I was going for a Macworld conference, like back in the era of the like titanium. No, actually, the 12-inch PowerBook. Now I remember. It's right about the 12-inch PowerBook. If you guys remember, that was a square notebook, like perfectly
Mm-hmm.
square. One of the best PowerBooks ever made. And we went to go find this coffee shop, Starbucks, and I was just hearing that, it's coming from Seattle, and like it's a thing. Still, not that much people drinking coffee in the middle of the day. So Starbucks strategy was put one on every corner.
Yep.
Like they went for the if I constantly see a Starbucks, you start thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. And I remember maybe like 2 or 3 years later when the first one popped up in Hawaii, and before the end of the year, there were 7 of them in Hawaii. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
why did they make so many? But then, later you hear there's like 10 in Hawaii, and now I think there's 38. And our island, anybody who's been here knows our island is not that huge, right? And then you go like pretty much any major city, they're everywhere. So I'm thinking of this repurposing thing similar to that. The advantage
Yep.
of taking these clips and putting them in all the places where people might bump into you and accidentally discover you, you are increasing your chances for your podcast to grow. And you don't have to be, hey, look at me about it. You can just drip, little Hansel and Gretel crumbs everywhere, and people will end up finding you. If you're bringing value to something they like, or comfort to their busy day, or allowing them a little moment of escapism, whatever your podcast subject matter is about, having those crumbs in places where people can discover them is more likely to help you grow your show.
Yeah, and I think you're also being in your Starbucks analogy, you're being respectful of the way that people want to interact with you and the way that they want to consume your content. So Starbucks was like, people who live on one side of Hawaii are not going to want to drive all the way to the other side of Hawaii, even if they love coffee and they've heard about us and they really want to experience us. We need to make it convenient for them. In the same way, we need to make it convenient for all of our listeners and potential listeners and viewers to consume our content. And that might be that someone, watches clips of your show on IG Reels for years before they ever say, oh, I have an extra hour right now. I'm taking the dog for a walk, or I'm cleaning, or I'm driving, or whatever. I can check out, what this experience is like in a audio podcast environment. I think you've made that convenient and you've been there consistently for them in the way that they want to and like to consume content. That's much better than just being like, hey, my podcast is only over here. Catch me when you can. And, or just saying that out loud and broadcasting that out loud on different platforms. No one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear, come to my store, come to my store, come to my store, come to my store. They want to get the value out of the content first, see if they know, like, and trust you. And, and then after a while, if it's convenient for them and they know you and like you, then maybe they'll make a change from being an Instagram person to a podcast person, or a blog reader to a podcast person, or a podcast person to a YouTube person. People have built up that routine and that consistency, and you're not going to easily change them just because you're shouting or shouting the loudest.
That is super funny. All I can think of is catch me outside. How about that? All right, so let's head into our first question. Let's see. We're going to go into our first question from here. What content can you turn your podcast into? That's a good one.
Oh my goodness. I love this question.
Yeah, it's funny because normally Katie asked me the question, but I needed to ask this to Katie because Katie is just amazing at this. So I had to flip the question situation this one time. Sorry, Kate, go.
No, it's good. This is my episode. I get to talk. I love it. Okay, so there's a ton of them. I think Mike Alton says 26. I've heard people say hundreds. It depends on how deep you want to break it into. But the basic categories are video. So you can start with a live video. So let's say we start with live video, since that's what we're doing. So we start with a live video. We record in front of a live audience. So that's our live video, one piece of content. The replay video that YouTube is automatically going to move from live to replay once we are off air, no longer on air. That's a replay video that people are going to discover and consume and ask questions for. And it's continuing to kind of build a life on YouTube. Then we send that video over to Luis, and he edits it down to just the core content. So it's a shorter video, which then we re-upload into a separate playlist on YouTube as a replay video. So that's a shorter video. That's 3. We could break that video down into shorter video clips in either vertical or horizontal. So let's say 4 or 5 that we could put out onto, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, Facebook posts, Twitter, etc. Right? Those are our social posts. We can take the transcript using our favorite tool over at Descript. We can grab that transcript and we can turn that into a blog post or a PDF article. So that's, what are we at? 7 and 8 if we count both of those as separate pieces. And then we have obviously the podcast, the audio side of it, right? So that's 9. We could also do, from the audio side of it, we could do audiograms, which are visual interpretations of just audio and not video. So that's 10. And then if you have a guest on, or you have any additional people, I'm echoing. But if you have any additional people, you can turn that into a product review or a testimonial video or a graphic with a quote on it. So that all of those are additional pieces of content that you can be able to get out across various places. So at Ecamm, almost every live video, and certainly this podcast that we do, if Doc or I say something really awesome or catchy or highlight one of the Ecamm features, or we have a guest on that just says like, oh my goodness, I love everything about what you're doing, I can clip that out, and that can become a testimonial or a quote or a review that we can put on our website and in different places. So I think I got to 10 or 11, but certainly you can do more, depending on what your workflow is like. But the basics are get it into a watchable video format, get it into a listenable audio format, get it short form digestible content, and then get it into a written format so that it's searchable and discoverable by other players. So baseline 4, and then you can go much deeper if you want to.
Much deeper. I want to add 2 more to the list.
Awesome.
So it turns out that after you get a couple episodes in your belt, you can generate digest, right? And especially if you're doing a podcast about something that's sort of linear or there's a growth aspect to it, right? You can bend 10 things we learned over the podcast this season. right? So you can drop that out as a PDF for people diving into the next season. You could do like Cliff Notes versions as PDF takeaways as well. Now, you could also generate a course or books out of the things that have basically come out of your podcast. So, for instance, someone like Ash Borland or Pat Flynn, or some of our other creators who have really been doing podcasts for a long time, they could generate an entire book just out of the things that they've said in their podcast over, say, the last 99 to 100 episodes. So one of the advantages of being prolific is you get quicker to being able to print a printable copy of something from your podcast.
Yeah, and it really, you do get into the habit of creating content in this live to tape, quote unquote, format. And it does make it significantly easier. I come from a writing background where I used to have to sit there for hours, you putting in all of the research, you're staring at that blinking cursor, being like, okay, what is the best title? How do I lay this out? Talking it out. I mean, you still have to do obviously all the research in the topic that you're presenting, but talking it out, especially talking it out with a guest or with a co-host, makes it much easier later to take that content, reflow it, or reorganize it. The text is all there. You've said it. You've put it all you've put it all down. It's a much faster process to take an existing piece of content, whether it's audio or video, and turn that into a blog post than it is to write a blog post or a course or an article or a PDF based on an idea you have. It is much easier to start kind of talking that through when you have people contributing to that conversation, questions coming up. You're going to end up with a much more inclusive piece of content than if you had just sat there and written it by yourself.
Very true. Very true. Man, just there's so many possibilities. It's kind of funny because I don't think that automatically when you do it, you think of all of the many things that you can do. However, when you start creating them, you realize you have been consuming clips and pieces of podcasts forever.
Yep.
There's an entire show on HBO that came out of the Adnan Syed case because of Serial, right? There's been several documentaries about it. So, I mean, talk about the ultimate repurposing right there.
Mm-hmm.
Is you might even end up on an HBO show, right? And
yeah.
I just thought of it too because you and Karen are both in the middle of the book, or Karen's almost done. Actually, take it back. She finished it yesterday.
I'm done. I'm a fast reader.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So she finished it yesterday. And again, there's a podcast host who basically started their show during the pandemic and basically in 2.5 years wrote an entire book. And now the book is a bestseller and they're just, no pun intended, they're killing it.
Yeah. Well, but the cool thing about that's really important to drive home to all of you listening and watching is that podcast host, shout out to our friends at Morbid, who don't know we exist, but we love them nonetheless. But shout out to our friends at Morbid. They built a community, right? A community of listeners who were putting them in their ears every single week, sometimes multiple times a week, who were binging their show at a time where, where people didn't have a ton else to do. We were stuck in our homes. We were trying to find ways and outlets to de-stress or to, make things feel somewhat normal. And so when it came time for her to want to write a book and to finish her book, which she had been wanting to do for forever, she had a built-in audience. So launching that book was significantly easier. So, if you're sitting here and you're like, oh, I really want to start this business, or I really want to, grow a membership or have a course, starting with a podcast and really putting the work in to find those followers and that audience and that community in all of those places where you're sprinkling your content, that's going to make it so much easier when it does come time to say, hey, I just launched my awesome new t-shirt line, or I wrote a book, or I'm launching this course. You have a built-in audience of people who know the content you're bringing to them is valuable, like you and trust you, and are much, much more likely to not only purchase that item, but to be diehard fans. I mean, that book launched and everyone shared video clips of how excited that they were, or pre-ordering it. Or, I mean, they had a built-in campaign without even needing to do the work in building the campaign. Their fans built the campaign for them and we're off and running. So, that kind of momentum comes from putting in the work and doing the community aspect of it and really making yourself accessible to your community.
See, that must have been cool to enjoy as a fan, but as a
Yeah.
fan that has experience in book publishing and promoting, like from the
Yeah.
marketing aspect of marketing a book. So you saw it totally different than
Yeah.
many of the other people to do that. And now that experience itself is your own, and it probably drags you deeper into the morbid verse, if you will. That
Yeah.
sounds weird unless you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Morbid. If
But,
you don't know, Morbid
yeah,
is a true crime podcast. It's
it is
awesome if you want to
amazing.
listen to a true crime podcast. But yeah, no. And I will say that like, it's often funny for me as a marketing professional to kind of experience situations like this where really good content repurposing gets me. so they were talking almost every single episode about the release of this book, and they're like, you should pre-order a copy, and they had a bunch of fun gimmicks and tactics where if you pre-ordered a copy you could get XYZ thing, or things that were popping up. And I totally was like, yeah, I'm in. Like, I'll pre-order copies. I pre-ordered a copy, and then I'm invested, right? Then, when they were like, oh, now we have new T-shirts, we have, this new stuff that's coming out, and and then I'm scrolling through Instagram. I see their, the information about the book pop up. Someone's commenting about how they have like cool glow in the dark socks. I'm like, I'm a sock person. I'm like you end up, because you've put it in the place. I listen to the podcast. They don't have a video side of things, but they have an Instagram channel, and the content on their Instagram is not exactly the same as the content that goes out onto their podcast, but it's just similar enough that it makes me want to go there as well. And people who are there, it gets them thinking, oh, I'm missing the whole story behind these images or this video, that I want to be able to listen to this podcast. So in repurposing, you're not just putting the same content in the same form everywhere. You're putting different pieces of it that are just enough to be able to, get someone's attention. So today, we're doing our first podcast that's remote produced. So putting out a little short video clip that I take with my phone that talks through like what that experience is like, or sharing some of the like fun 900 screen captures that I got of Doc looking down, all of those, that would be great repurposed content, even though none of that was in the actual podcast episode. But it's just enough that people that are seeing it are like, oh, I've always wondered how to do that. And we're not even talking about that today, remote production, but we will in an upcoming episode. We might catch some people that'll come over and check it out here on YouTube, or want to listen to the podcast on the podcast platform. So another good thing to keep in mind is that repurposing doesn't always mean I put the same piece of content in multiple places. It means really thinking about your content as having an A to Z life, and how can you build those little pieces of content alongside your main piece that catches attention and pulls people in.
That makes sense. Okay, so this is kind of funny because you somewhat alluded to our second point. So let's drop the second point, and Katie, you read this one.
What are your top repurposing tips?
You covered one of my first ones, and
I'm sorry.
it is the top repurposing tip, but you did it accidentally without knowing it. And I think this is very important. So I want to make sure that we illuminate this perfectly. Every platform is different. Let me reiterate that for the people at home who are like, they didn't hear me the first time, but just in case. Every platform is different. Do not take something that you made for TikTok and pick it up and drop it on IG, and then pick it up and drop it on YouTube, and then pick it up and drop it on LinkedIn. They all perform slightly differently. You can lead into head and tail a clip. So what do I mean by head and tail a clip? Say you have a clip right here where you say, and this is the most valuable piece of information that you're ever going to get from our particular podcast. You can take that, and in front of it, you can say, from this week's episode, I had a chance to interview Jared Spinks, and this is something I think you should hear. Insert the clip, and it'd be like, at the end, go, if you want to see more, make sure you drop off whatever. That works really well on like LinkedIn. That will not work really well on IG. You see what I mean? LinkedIn people are ready for the direction. They are ready for the tell me where to go. Tell me where to go. Tell me when to Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or that clip may link into a quote that of brilliance that Jared gave during the interview that could either be a graphic and not have any video or text behind it and point back to the full episode, or could be a video clip of him saying something brilliant that has burned on captions on it so people can read it if they're scrolling through. Yeah, 100%.
Right. And like, for instance, your own homemade captions in your favorite program, they work really well in many places. But I'm gonna tell you right now, on IG, use the built-in IG captioner. They, for whatever reason, because it's their house, happen to give you a little bit more love on the algo
Mm-hmm.
if you use their built-in captioner versus make your own. I like to make my own. I think they look cool, right? And I think it just adds a different visual spot that might grab someone's eyes organically. But if you're an algo tweaker, then you might want to use the built-in one from IG. Now, what I often do is export the built-in one from IG and I'll put it somewhere else just because it looks different and it catches an eye,
Yep.
and that may or may not, do very well on on YouTube, but you got to make sure that you do it before you get the burned in IG logo. Do not post videos of another logo on another thing. So do
Mm-hmm.
not roll up into the Pepsi factory with a Coke in your hand. Like, this is really
Decked out
silly.
in Coke gear. Yeah.
It's super silly, and I don't know why everyone does that. And I guess the part that tempts you to do that is you see videos and things with millions of views on it that have, the TikTok logo and stuff. That those mostly were created before the platforms are decided that they were going to go out of their way to block this stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
there's tools out there to help you if you forget to pull down a clean copy before you post it. There's tools out there that will help you get it without the watermark, but every platform is a little different. They have a different culture. So produce for the right platform. It's just so much simpler.
Yeah, exactly. And just because you see it working doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do or that it's going to work for you. So, there's a
Very
lot of
much so.
content out there that is working, and it might just be that that person has a much bigger platform than you do, or they got in before there were algorithm updates or changes, or they've paid for it. Like, who knows what kinds of things they're doing or what rules they're breaking. It doesn't mean it's the right thing. So get to know
Correct.
the platforms, I think, is a hugely important tip and something that is going to be helpful regardless of whether you're a podcaster or just creating content for a business or for yourself. They are really different and they need to be treated differently.
Well, you also, I think the big takeaway there from something you just said is you got to define what is working. A bunch of vanity views that don't amount to anything um, doesn't necessarily mean it's working. And of course,
Hmm.
this has been reiterated a lot, but famously, one of the top, TikTok creators thought she could hold an event because she got millions of people on TikTok and nobody came. And it's not the same thing. Like, it's
Yeah.
a whole different ball of wax. What's funny is, it's this existed long before TikTok, right? So there was a nightclub here that a partner of mine, James and I, we used to bring in like 2,000 people every Friday and Saturday night for like 3 years solid, right? And the management decided one day that they wanted to be cocky, and someone told them that they could make more money by just, now that the party is established, they could bring in a lesser DJ, I can say that cockily, and continue to do the party without us because everyone's coming to their club. Not that
Hmm.
everybody was coming to their club because of us. In their head, because, well, they paid the mortgage, everybody was coming to their club because of them. So
Yeah.
they basically uh, gave us an ultimatum, and we didn't like it, so we quit, and they thought their party was going to rock on. The very next weekend, they were listening to crickets rubbing, and they're like, "How in the exact heck did that happen?" You know. And the fun part of it is, moments later, we realized that we could now do. We go to a place, we take the party to them, and we don't actually work like as employees for a club ever again. We just
Hmm.
basically carry the party around, and it's funny, but it goes to show you that is not often what you think when you see the success that you see the success. So don't be stuck in the vanity side of it, because it can completely bite you in the okole or the butt. And I'm pretty sure if DJ Rob is here, he has been through a similar experience because every club owner tries it. Every
Yeah.
club owner tries it, and DJ Rob is a big time headliner in Vegas, so I'm sure he's been through it. So yeah, that's just a thing. And remember that each platform is different, your culture is different. You really don't understand how people connect with you unless you bother to ask.
Yeah. And I would say too, to know what your, I mean, and this is true outside of podcasting as well, but really have a good understanding of what your goals are. And are those goals actually ones that are benefiting your business? And do you have too many? Have been in the past notorious for this. Having like 10 goals is not going to work. Have one goal, and then when you hit it, great, go to the next goal. Have two at an absolute max, but 10 different goals isn't going to get there for you. And the similar thing, when we're talking about repurposing, there's a lot, as we just said, there's a ton of different kinds of content that you can create. That doesn't mean that you need to start with all of that. That doesn't mean that you can't add those things on as you build out your team or get into a really good workflow. All of this is liquid. All of this is, malleable. You can make any changes along the way. So I would say, if you are able to just get started, get to your number 7 podcast, see how things are going, then set the next goal or the goal, and then think through, how you want to approach your repurposing. Maybe it's just for the first 7 episodes, you're just going to get out to those podcast platforms. You're just going to get audio out. Great. And then on episode 8, you're like, hey, now we're going to open it up to a live studio audience. And we're going to have video and audio available. Awesome. Do that for a little bit. When that's working and you're in that really great state and you're able to do that consistently, then think through how you're going to approach adding, social clips or a blog post or whatever else it is. It's okay to walk before you run. It's okay to crawl before you walk. You don't need to do all of it just because someone like us has told you that there's 26 pieces of content and you have to be doing all of them. You don't have to be doing all of them. You can intentionally never do all of them. Like, you can intentionally only ever do an audio podcast or a video podcast or just have, 2 things or 3 things. That's okay too. It's really about being consistent with it and taking your time to really build it correctly.
Correct. That's super valuable. And then I guess the last thing that I would want to ask is, do you have any particular tips that is like your go-to when it comes to repurposing?
Not that, I think we've covered most of them. I would just double down again and say that Marshall and I are the absolute worst for doing the absolute most, which is now my favorite saying that he's been saying during Marshall Creates. But I am absolutely guilty of this. He is better with the details than I am, but I am always the person that's like, I think I have time and I think we can do more of this. Get it right first. Don't get it right just for a couple of weeks. Get it right for a good couple of months till you really, really feel solid. And then bring on that awesome new idea, and then bring on that great new tool, and then add on that extra piece of repurposing. But really, like, give yourself a little bit of breathing space, give yourself some room. I know my whole team is laughing at me. I'm sure Caleb is like, eye roll, but seriously, as someone who's not good at this, let me preach it to myself as well as to all of you out there that give yourself some breathing space to get it to where it's beyond where you want it to be. Like, it's so solid that you really feel confident, and then think through how you're going to take it to that next level. Because you don't have to do the most. You don't have to do all of it. You just have to show up consistently. That's the base level, is showing up consistently. And then you can think through all of this content repurposing and how you're going to approach everything else step by step.
See, that's perfect. Test pass, like 20 times. One of us is married to an engineer.
Exactly. And there's a reason why I'm married to an engineer, because I am definitely not that. I am the person that's like, oh, shiny, or I think I have tons of time. And you know what? I do have tons of time until I say yes to absolutely everything. And even then, I probably can still pull it off until there's a wrench that gets thrown in, which happens to us all, right? So just because you can hold 19 things doesn't mean that there's not going to be like a dog that's going to run at your feet and knock you to the ground. Doesn't matter how many things you are holding, you're going down. So, it's better to, it's better to take it slow and really get to that level of confidence.
When you test your abilities against Massachusetts traffic.
Exactly, right?
We'll leave
Yeah.
it at that. Okay, so let's get to the last point. This is good. I like this one.
All right. How do you create an efficient content repurposing workflow for your podcast?
I think you just kind of covered it.
I was going to say, I think we covered it, but we'll break it down again.
Start with one,
Mm-hmm.
get really good at it over the course of, say, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 episodes, and
Yep.
then add another, and
Yep.
then add another, and then add another. Again, each time letting it rock the litmus test of how well you can get that flow out. So
Yep.
I believe what you just stated is one way. I think another way, and this is something that Michelle from LBC Branding is extremely good at, is
Mhm.
creating a flow board, as you will. She uses
A
Trello.
template, yeah.
You can use
Mhm.
ClickUp. You can do it with Notion, whatever. You could use Apple Notes. Make yourself a list, sort of like we did for the new show flow.
Yeah, checklist, yeah.
Make the checklist and go down that sucker, right?
Yep.
And you even stated after I made the flow exactly how I made it, you go, hey, but you didn't put in the parts about how we're going to repurpose all these clips. And I was like, oh yeah, because normally you do that. So it didn't dawn on me. But as a solo producer, someone's going to need to know that as well. So eventually what we'll want to do is add those, not eventually, probably today or tomorrow. We'll add those to the show flow so everyone can see it, and then maybe we'll just make it public, because nothing to hide. Like, you guys can see how we do it. You're going to
We sink
adjust
or
it
swim
accordingly,
together.
right?
Yeah,
You can adjust it
exactly.
according. Oh, I got to take the swear words out of the document. Dang. But you can adjust it to how it works for you, and you can see that this is a good way. But you're going to always have to adjust it. And I think most people misunderstand that, right? Like, here's in a very weird analogy, but this is just how analogy work for me. If you go to ramen in Hawaii and you ask for, okay, I'll get the spicy miso, they'll be like, what level? And you'll be like, what do you mean, what level? Because in Hawaii, spicy miso is going to come levels 1 through 10.
Yeah.
And then in that levels 1 through 10, you might think that, I could just jump in the middle and go to 5. No, by the time you get to 5, it's deadly. And I am a heat eater. Like, I eat heat like really good, but holy crap, I can't imagine the people that can go all the way up to 10. They are superhuman. So
Well, that
even
isn't
with something like that, you need to kind of know where you are and start at level 1, fam. Like, just test it. Wait when the sweat starts to be, Louise talked about it, when you get that little sweat pop up, but it doesn't drip, you haven't quite hit your limit. When you get the next level and the sweat actually starts to move, that's about a good place to stop, because everything after that is going to cause body pain.
Yeah, and that's an amazing analogy, because I think mixed in there as well is that everyone tastes spicy differently, and it's okay. You're not like it's not the same as like a pass fail, right? You're not like, if I don't get to level 7, I've failed. If I don't get to level 10, I'm not perfect. No, some people are only ever going to be a 1 because that's the level of spicy that works for them. Some people are only ever going to be at 4 because that's the level of spicy that works for them. So you need to figure out what your content repurposing plan is, what you like, what audiences you want to reach, what kinds of content you want to create, what's within your time and your bandwidth, what you're able to do, how big your team is, how big you want your team to be. All of those things are considerations as you're finding out your content spicy level, right? So, mine may only ever be a 5, and 5 may be like, amazing, I'm awesome, this is where I want to be. And I may have to work my way from 1 to 5 to get there, but I'm not going to, once I get to 5, be like, well, crap, I'm not at 10 yet. I need to work my way up to 10. 10 may never make sense to me. So there is still the planning that goes into it to really think through what makes the most sense for you. And there's constant evaluation and tweaking. What is working? What is not working? The stuff that's not working, get rid of. The stuff that's working, double down on as much as you're able to do within your time limits and time spans.
It's so good. It's so good. The last day we spent in New York, I had the ability to take Luis to eat ramen after we talked about it for like 2 weeks.
I'm so jealous. I didn't get any ramen.
He got the hot ramen, and when Luis took his hat off, you could just see the little dots. And I was like, "Oh, you got that perfect spice level." And he was like, "Yeah." when you walk outside, it's cool, right? Because
Yeah.
one of the common questions is, it's so hot in Japan and so humid. Why do people eat ramen in the summertime? For that reason. If you can get the bead bubble when you walk outside, that cools you down. So
Yeah.
that's why. But yes, anyway, I think that's I like the idea of testing your spicy level.
Yep.
Because hey, I know people who say black pepper is spicy, and I look at them like, family, what did your mama do to you? That's how I know.
But they know that about themselves. So those people are not
Exactly.
they're not gonna sit down at the ramen place and order themselves a level 10 spicy bowl of ramen. They're like, no, pepper is spicy. I'm gonna get a non-spicy bowl of ramen. And they're gonna be happy with that because they know going in where they're at and they know where they want to push
you from
themselves.
failure, right? Because you're starting even before you get started, you're giving yourself a reasonable expectation. And so I would think another important segment of the strategy is give yourself a reasonable expectation.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
don't be unrealistic with your expectations. I tend to work from no expectations whatsoever, and I adjust by data.
Yeah.
Right? I know that Katie's not like this because we had this conversation in the car. I go by data and results. Like, I never expect anything because I hate being disappointed. It's not a
Yep.
thing. I blame my birth father for that. Like, I can't stand disappointment. So I just don't expect anything. And that way,
Yep.
whatever happens, I can work accordingly.
Yep.
So I think it's important for you that if you start say, I'm going to put these out and, I'm going to get 15 new users, readers, viewers, watchers, whatever this week, and you get 2, that you're not butthurt by that, right?
Yeah.
If you go in and say, I'm going to make this with the intent of growing, those 2 is growth. And then you can Hercules,
Yeah.
right? You feel better.
And what made those 2 come? Double down on that. What got those 2 in the door? Stop worrying so much about why the other 8 didn't show. start thinking through what made it magical for those 2. You won those 2 over. Why? Do more of that. That's what you need to do more of.
So good. We got 2 good ones today. We got the podcast spicy level.
It's going to be our new t-shirt. We have all these people asking. Today I'm wearing my favorite of our t-shirts, which is like our Ecamm vintage t-shirt. And they're on the merch shop. So everyone here who has been asking, and listeners, if you don't see this because you're listening, you obviously need to be hanging out in our YouTube studio audience or swing by and grab our replay video because that's 2 pieces of content that we've created. But this t-shirt is definitely hands down one of my favorite because it's yellow and it's vintage and it feels super fun. I'm just only everyday living in Ecamm t-shirts because it's really fun to make them and it's even more fun to wear them. So I'm doing it entirely for me, folks. If you like them, that's great. But I'm in the t-shirt business for me.
I really like the retro t-shirt. I just looked at this and it gave me an idea. We need to make the 12 days at Ecamm, and I'm going to be 11 Lords of Leaping in the podcasting.
11 Lords of Leaping into podcasting. I love it. Actually, speaking of leap into podcasting, as we're wrapping here, just a reminder to absolutely everyone listening or watching or our amazing live studio audience. We had such a blast at Leap into Podcasting. So huge thank you to everyone that signed up or that showed up with us live. But just because you may have missed it does not mean you've missed it. We have replay videos available. We unlocked the portal with all of our replay videos this week, yesterday. It's a blur. It's only Tuesday. This week is yesterday. So if you grab a guide, the physical one that Doc is holding up, or a digital copy of the guide, you will get an email from us that gives you a login to our portal. And the portal includes not just this year's replay videos, but videos from 2020 and 2021. So there's over 100 videos. Literally every topic in the world of live streaming and podcasting is covered in these videos. And you'll get the guides. So you'll be able to jot down notes and, any ideas that you have for your own podcast. You can start outlining those using the templates. So it's a really amazing value. It's literally at, $25 American at its cheapest and $35 at its most expensive. So it's not a ton, and it would be a really great opportunity. We'd love for you to dive into that content. And then let us know, maybe there is something that's missing or something you want to dive deeper on. Email us, flow@ecamm.com, and we'd love to cover that on an episode of the podcast.
There you go. Man, this was a great episode. I think it's one of the things that people definitely are starting to understand is the content repurposing and the repurposing for podcasts, especially. I'm even watching some of the bigger podcasts like do whole entire clips channels just because they have really long shows. and
Yeah.
things like that. So you just never know. So it's a good time to experiment. You have a couple of months. And for those who haven't started their podcast yet, I'm telling you, the time is nigh. You kind of want
Mhm.
to get it at least going before the end of the year. Podcast is just growing and it's going to grow more. So this is a good time to be in the podcasting business.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Doc, where can they find us? Luis, flash our awesome. Yeah, there we go.
Look at that. We got a producer, yo. We're like legit.
Look at that production
You can
quality.
find us anywhere podcasts get this guy. You can get us on the Apple iTunes Store or Spotify, Amazon Music, everywhere, Google, Stitcher, the above. You can also just go straight to flow.ecamm.com. That's flow.ecamm.com. So that is a good place to find us there. You can also just scan the QR code. And before we close this out, I want to give you guys a really, really quick reminder to go and check out Speedify. You can find them at SPEEDIFY. I often say Spotify with my face, but I know it's Speedify because it will save your bacon. It works like an absolute champ whenever
Yep.
you're in a situation where you have spotty internet or you just want to give yourself a little bit of comfort level. So
Yeah.
again, 2 leaps in a row this year doing leap. The internet decided to go goofy because, hey, Massachusetts.
Starting to feel like
But
Massachusetts
actually,
hates
I
us.
think
Just
it's probably
saying.
just Amesbury specifically because
Yeah.
Amesbury is the second town ever invented in the United States of America. So um, when we had a little dip in internet performance, Speedify was able to keep it going. And I even sent out tweets. I got a notification that Speedify basically saved our bacon like 7 or 8 times in the middle of day 2. It was really weird. Something about day 2 and Leap. We always have some kind of weird internet thing. So next year, Leap is going to be 15 minutes. So
You know what I absolutely love though about it, and shout out to our friends at Speedify for having this as like a feature, I guess, for lack of a better word, is that it had this amazing thing. I think I got a screenshot of it, but it was just like Speedify just saved your stream. Speedify just saved your, like, it would be this like very reassuring pop up where you would be live or interacting with an audience or having a speaker on, and it would just kind of slide up to the side like, don't worry, we got you, we got this. Slide back down, which is all you want. You're like, oh my
what's
goodness, like
funny?
things would have gone wrong.
You would know this better than me, but it sort of reminds me of like a mom when your kid gets about 3 or 4 years old and they're constantly running around knocking things over and dropping it, but you're catching it before it falls. And you just put it up and kind of smile to the store clerk, like, don't worry, I got it. Like you just mom saved it, but the kid has
Yeah.
no clue,
Yeah.
right? And you're just running out, like, oh, caught this, caught that, or, so things like that.
That's it.
I think that Speedify is like, mom walking around for a toddler for your internet.
Yeah.
There, I
They
said
need
it.
like
This
a
starts
fun
first. Alex is gonna go, how do we work that into our marketing?
they need like a fun like mascot that just like pops up, like a non-obnoxious version of like Clippy from Word where it just like slides in and it's like, I got you, and then like disappears again. Like just so it doesn't even have to have words. It could just be like, got this, got it. Got it.
Just throw the quick little shaka. Hey, boss, it's good.
Yeah, exactly. No problem. It was about to go bad, but I got it. Yeah,
So
no,
thank you,
it's an awesome
Speedify,
tool.
for just again keeping our bacon safe and for helping us with the flow by being a great sponsor. I just
Yeah,
got to say that they tell you in the business always. I've been at this for a long time, from radio to TV, whatever. They tell you in the business always you want sponsors for products that you know and love. This is one of those cases. Like when
absolutely.
you know the program and love the program, it is 100% amazing. And yeah, I wish they did have an affiliate program, but I do believe that the hardest part about that is Alex won't listen to me and triple the price because it's only like $4. So if I sign somebody up, they're not going to save me 12 cents. Like what I'm going to do, So I don't
It's
know.
so
It's
true.
too cheap. It is ridiculously too cheap. So definitely do it before one day that dude wakes up and goes, you know what? Doc is right. Let's raise the price to $12. So,
Oh, it's so true. All right, are we
yeah.
ready to go to questions? I'm scrolling through to
Yeah,
see if I
let's go to
see any
questions. Let's go to
here.
questions. Thank you guys for listening to another fantastic episode of The Flow. We would now drop into Q&A, which you can be a part of by showing up every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern. That's 12 noon Eastern when the Amesbury horn goes. that is when it is time to be here for the flow. And now we will see you next week. Thank you, Katie, for awesome questions today. And thank you guys for being part of the flow. And one time for the Flow Riders.
Whoop whoop.
All right, let's roll into some Q&A.
I don't even see a ton of questions, which is good.
No Q. We got
It's
no
good.
Q's
No
to
Q.
A.
No Q's. Lots of people asking about the shirt. I don't think we have a women's cut of this. Although I'm rocking regular cut. Do we need a women's cut? If we need a women's cut, we'll add one.
Women's cut is Karen takes my shirt and clips the collar off and then uses it for whatever the heck. And just imagine, like, I'm 6 foot, like 250 plus, and she's 4'11" and not 250 plus, but she makes women's cuts out of all of my shirts, and then I have to order new shirts.
I love it. I don't see any other questions. We did it. Definitely. See, we've been saying every single week that everyone needs to email us topic ideas, and none of you have emailed us topic ideas except right at the very beginning. So definitely send along topic ideas. Next week, we're bringing on a special guest to talk about mindset. So that'll be really fun. And then I think we should do a remote production one. But past that,
we are actually on episode 11.
Gee, Albert, we did it. We're 11.
We're actually on episode 11.
Christopher wants, yeah, there we go. Nice. Cover Doc's face up there. Christopher wants to know, what easy tool do y'all use for making short videos from a longer one? And can you all demonstrate? We use Descript and Luis.
Yes.
We can demonstrate. We also have some great videos. Maybe we don't have Paul in the chat right now, but Christopher, if you go just back to our YouTube channel in general, we do a series called the Masterclass series, and Doc did one with the Descript team, and they are so it's DESCRIPT, and they allow you basically to edit a video in the way that you would edit a Word document. So they pull the transcript, and then if you highlight the transcript, like little clips of it, you can literally just hit clip, and it makes the video, makes a short form. So if Doc just talking about Speedify, I could literally do Command F to search the word Speedify. When it highlights in the document itself, I would just highlight the text and then clip, and it would clip the video of him talking about it. Makes it crazy easy. Like, this person who doesn't do video editing can edit videos. Not as good as Luis, but I can do the basics. Save Luis some time.
The cool thing about the link that I just dropped in, Chris, is that this is older. The script has grown up since I did this. So we gotta have Harmony and the gang back on to do another one, because the script is so cool. They keep adding stuff to make this process so much easier. It's already easy now, and they add more stuff to it. And so, yes, the script is probably your best answer, especially if you're not a seasoned video editor. But in theory, if you're doing a YouTube masterclass like such, I don't know if this is going to play out, but I can maybe talk Luis through this. Luis, if you were to click on the link that I just put in the chat, inside the extra if needed folder in the show, there's one that's called browser, and you'd be able to show them that on YouTube there is a thing called clip. It's actually a physical part of YouTube now.
Oh, yeah. That's a good thing. Yeah, you can clip a YouTube video.
So you can clip, if you're doing your video podcast, you can actually pull a clip directly out of YouTube. I can't find an easy way to do this, but I'm going to just screenshot this for a second, because I'll just show you where it is, and then I'll drop this into my master, and then you'll see. Okay. So right about there, you should be able to see that that's just at the bottom of a video on YouTube. Oh, I know. I'm using regular camera, not Ecamm right now.
I was going to say, I don't see it, but I believe you.
Because I switched because Ecamm audio was doing goofy stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. Does that work now?
Nope, you're frozen.
Let's see. I just broke it.
We broke it.
That's what I get. Anyway, you'll see it. If you go there, you'll see directly there is a little clip type situation, and you can use that to make clips as well. Once you make those clips, there's programs that YouTube don't like us to talk about on YouTube that you can use. Rhymes with frowny but begins with a D. That you can use to download that clip and then stick it wherever you want to.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and also, depending on what you're doing with it. I guess you're editing from a longer clip. I was going to say, there you can also totally just use your phone to grab additional short clips that are similar to or go alongside the longer content. So you don't always have to just edit down a longer video to be able to use it or repurpose it. Ooh, look at this beautiful studio. I got you, Doc.
Who's that?
Luis is trying to catch up with us. I like it.
So I actually made one called browser, and if you just select Chrome, then you should be able to see the browser. That's my
desktop. Doc's office.
Yeah, that's my studio.
Beautiful.
Luis, that little doll in the
That's
corner is
actually-
the one that I helped make with Travis McCoy. Would you say, Luis?
That's actually the one set up as browser, but it doesn't have the.
Yeah, so just switch to your browser. I just had to stick it there because Ecamm didn't have a better way.
So I'm on it and I'm playing the video, but it's not broadcasting. So give me just 1 second, because I am the producer. I will produce.
Just hide the video. I mean, hide that image.
So let me go to this one, and I'll be with you in just a sec.
I'm looking, and then, oh, you know what, Luis? It's just that image is hiding. That's all you gotta do is hide that image, and you'll see the browser. There it is.
There you go. Yeah, we got there.
There you go.
Okay, so there's the video playing. Where's the clip button?
Without playing the video, if you scroll down in the browser a little bit, you'll see where there's a clip. On
oh,
YouTube.
There we go. Yep.
There's
there we go.
scissors.
Scroll down. Yep.
And then if you can dig in around the scissors part, you can see where there's clip right next to share or
oh yeah. Yep. There it is. Yeah, exactly. Right there. So that's on the browser. It's right next to download. So you can download or you can clip it.
Yeah,
that's an easy way.
Right. Yep, and that's it. So you can just make clips just like that.
And Michelle is asking, how do you feel about clipping memes for your videos? Clipping memes for your video. I mean, I think it depends on whether or not that's like on brand for you, but I think lots of people can have fun memes that you can show in your videos or clip from maybe to clip from your videos to make memes. But I don't see a downfall as long as it's not like way off brand. If you're having like a really professional. Doc's thinking about it.
No, because I am. I'm just trying to think of it like, I don't know. All right, so this is just me. Please understand the level of curmudgeon here. Memes are funny. Period.
Yeah.
What most people think is funny from doing their memes is not funny. So they become irritating.
Yeah.
So if you're good at it, they're funny.
You can also overdo it, probably.
It's cheesy, right? Yeah. Luis and I were comparing memes when we were at the beach house, and I gotta say, like, Luis is a funny mofo. You might not know this, but he got some good memes, right? Lemuel is a masterful meme generator, as you know from hanging out in the LGL group on Facebook. So if you have that skill, rock that baby. If you don't, because it will be real cheesy. Like, it has to be good. I think what people, the population, in order to try to be cute, has ruined the true definition and the feeling and the vibe of memes. So because of that, the amount of people that are tired of them will come for you. So if you're going to come correct, you got to come correct. It's like if you're going to build a phone today, you're going to have to come up against Galaxy 21, 22, or iPhone 14. If you're going to come up with anything less than that, you're going to get laughed right out the park. Yeah. So knowing that the bar is high, yeah.
All All right, I gotta run, so I'm gonna take the last question. G. Albert wants to know about my bowling pin. I've answered my bowling pin question a bunch of times. I can't easily reach it from behind me. But Doc got me the bowling pin because I had a matching one at home. It's in a box right now because I'm actively moving, but I have a matching one at home that I won when I was like a teenager at my local bowling alley, which I spent a ton of time at my local bowling alley. So I have one at home that I was using when had my home office set up, and so now I have one here as well. This one doesn't have glow in the dark stickers all over it though, so
You know what I keep under the desk? A Manchester United soccer
There,
ball.
yeah, personality. It's for fun
I
personality.
literally kick it around under the desk just to keep, keep my
To
legs
keep
kicked.
focused.
So it's
To keep
literally on
focused.
the bottom of the desk, and I just kind of like juggle it back and forth between my feet because it's a thing. And then
Yeah.
people are like, why do you have a Manchester United soccer ball? And why not?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I got to run before my grumbling stomach turns much, much louder. It's like lunchtime.
Yeah, I got to get ready to do another show in 45 minutes. So let's get it twisted.
Thanks for hanging out, everyone, and hopefully we'll see you next week. We have our interview, so bring the fire and all your amazing questions for our special guest, and send along any ideas that you have for future episodes.
There you go. That was fun. Thank you, Luis.
Thank you.
You
Thanks,
killed it.
Luis.
You killed it.